tracks, stats, and facts. www.enterthedome.com.
Good people, what's going on? Episode number 27. It's been a minute. A few people hit me up and say, yo, when the next episode coming, man? So just being very busy, man, but excited tonight, man. Episode 27, the misconception of conscious hip hop. Excited to talk about a few things, man, with you guys. So look, I had a conversation last fall with a friend of mine just about hip hop in general, and then we started talking about conscious rap. And we was talking about certain groups and MCs who we perceive as conscious, but they really aren't. And certain groups and MCs that we don't look at as conscious actually are pretty conscious with their lyrics and with their messages, but sometimes their appearance can kind of throw it off. And just we want and just a lot of other things in regards to conscious hip hop, socially awareness, things about the community and things like that. Man, hip hop has been the groundwork for expressing, a lot of conditions for almost 50 years now. You know what I'm saying? But what I like to do is use Grandmaster Flash and Melle Mel, the message as the blueprint, and then as the tree to what conscious and social awareness is in hip hop, and then we'll talk about the limbs on that tree and how Melle Mel is kind of the father of some of that. Because before Melle Mel and Grandmaster Flash, you had Curtis Blow was a star, probably the first rap star. He had basketball and all of that. He had a lot of joints, man. If I Rule the World, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. So, and then you have, of course, the Sugar Hill Gang and just other artists who didn't have a major record deal. But with the message, 1982, the message, they talked about, the struggle, the inner city, drugs, poverty, you know what I'm saying? And the challenges that was a result of systematic racism. It was a result of a long history of inequality, from slavery to during Reconstruction to Jim Crow, civil rights, etc., up until like a lot of issues in the 70s. That was a direct result of what was going on in earlier decades. So the message, the video showed you the inner city, showed you New York and poverty, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. But we dealt with that everywhere in America. I'm down south, we deal with the same thing. You deal with the same poverty. And when they were saying it's like a jungle sometimes, to make me wonder how I keep from going under, it's just that pain and stress, like the show Good Times, you know what I'm saying? Like when you think about the theme song and the visual when Good Times come on, you know what I'm saying? Well, that's hip hop, you know what I'm saying? So if we're looking at Grandmaster Flash and Melle Mel, the message, then you come down to, you look at Run DMC. And I'm going to bring it back to the misconception in a few minutes. We'll bring it home. We're going to touch a few things first just to lay the groundwork for the discussion today. But Run DMC, people look at them and think of My Adidas, you know what I'm saying, or It's Like That, or King of Rock, and they're huge songs, so you think that, because Run, one of the first fly guy floss dudes, you know what I'm saying, like, he was kind of like Curtis Blow on steroids, the flossing and stuff and AL. But Run DMC used to be Curtis Blow DJ. A lot of people, he was DJ Run. But anyway, that's a little hip hop history for you. But nevertheless, Run DMC had a song called Hard Times. Go back and listen to Hard Times, and you'll see that was still looking at life and looking at the struggle, and they talked about that in the song. But as we fast forward some, we'll get to KRS-One, because I think KRS-One is a direct lineage of Melle Mel, with By All Means. But when BDP first came out with Criminal Minded, they were a gangster rap group to a degree. You know what I'm saying? KRS-One was coming out of a homeless shelter. He was raw, street dude. You know what I'm saying? So Criminal Minded was what I dang, listen to my 9mm go bang. That's just kind of poetry, and all that, and 9mm and stuff. So it was, The Bridge Is Over was a battle rap, but nevertheless, they weren't conscious like that. Skylar Rock got killed. So when he came back with his follow-up, By All Means Necessary, By Any Means Necessary, rather, he on the front of the cover like Malcolm X with the gun, looking outside. And so the song is my philosophy, stuff like that. So he was starting to use the consciousness, and he started talking in that kind of tone. Then he had the song on there, Illegal Business. You know what I'm saying? Illegal business controls America. So he talking about drugs and just a lot of illegal things that the government was doing. He felt the government was doing. So that was the start of KRS-One's consciousness. And of course, that led into, of course, edutainment, sex and violence. You know what I'm saying? Sex and violence, the front of sex and violence had like politician getting like a lap dance or somebody strip or something like that. You know what I mean? The blueprint, ghetto music of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And Return to Boom Bap, where he had a joint called Black Cop on there. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So he kept on going. Of course, during that time, he had Self-Destruction, the super conscious song. You know what I'm saying? And I think that spawned a whole lot with Self-Destruction, because on the West Coast, they end up having, we all in the same gang. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to diffuse gang violence and things of that nature. On the East Coast, you have Self-Destruction. Everyone remembers Self-Destruction. If you're younger watching this and you're not familiar with Self-Destruction and we're all in the same gang, go back in YouTube and watch those videos and see all of the different artists that were on those two videos and on those, in those songs in general, and listen to the message, the positive message that these artists were trying to do. You know what I'm saying? So you have all of that, and those are the positive, conscious songs. But now let's talk about a few things, like from this perspective. Going back to my initial comment, a lot of people equate certain groups and artists with conscious records or consciousness, when that's not necessarily their aim. You know what I'm saying? So, but first, let me dive to the left real quick and say Public Enemy, of course, is for me, the most political rap group of all time. Chuck D, voice, power on the mic, message, direct aim at the government, was more than anyone before or after him, in my opinion. Yo Bum Rush the Show had what it had, but It Takes a Nation of Million. They went all the way in, from Black Steel and Hour of Chaos, talking about the prison system, the army, you know what I'm saying, or just military in general, and just the way Black people are treated, to Can't Trust It. If you watch that video, Can't Trust It, it shows like the slave narrative and stuff like that, to Night Living Baseheads, the drug epidemic. Nobody was like Public Enemy, you know what I'm saying? So they are a super conscious, super socially aware group. NWA, going forward now, you think they're not conscious because the way they looked, with the black shirts, the hats, whatever, the content on surface level seemed just gangster, right? But if you go back through Straight Outta Compton is kind of a conscious album. When you think about Express Yourself, and you think about F the Police, you're like, F the Police, a conscious? It is, because that song was about the frustration and awareness of how blacks have been treated by police. You know what I'm saying? And look, yeah, we know it's some good cops, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about the history of police and Black America. You can go on YouTube, of course. For anyone watching this who somehow forgot, you can watch video of men, women, and children getting hosed down by police in the 50s, 60s, whatever. You can watch dogs being sicked on Black people. You can watch the police beating the crap out of Black people. It's all on video still. You can watch on YouTube. You can watch 1,000 documentaries on it leading up to now. We can use the last 10 years, and we can name 10 different protests, because we saw on camera a situation where someone Black got killed by the police, that it was avoidable. It didn't have to turn into murder. We know this. So we don't have to even go there. So when NWA made F the Police, it made sense to a lot of Black people. Then when the Rodney King situation happened, I remember watching an MTV interview, and Eazy-E and Ren, I think, was talking. Eazy was like, yeah, well, that what you saw on tape with Rodney King, we have seen this plenty of times before. This is what the police do out here. Well, we know in American history they do it. We just thought it stopped, right? A lot of people thought, oh, that's not happening anymore. Yeah, it was still happening. And then someday, I think some young kid caught it on tape, or video rather, because that was VHS back then, but it was caught. They got off. Riots happened. So then you wonder why prior to that, you had something called F the Police. Or you wonder why years later you had a Dead Prez, who was very militant, in a combination of probably Public Enemy and NWA. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, I digress. That's the reason why. But NWA in their first album were kind of socially aware, socially conscious. Of course, on the follow-up, Niggas for Life, they weren't. They went back straight crazy. Ice Cube was gone. Ice Cube was kind of socially conscious when America's Most Wanted and the Death Certificate, and even some of his other albums, Lethal Injection and Predator, he had socially conscious joints on them. But when Ice Cube left NWA, they no longer had that conscious element anymore. You know what I'm saying? But during that time, you did have other groups. Now, NWA was a group that appeared gangster, but had some conscious joints. At first, they flipped back to straight gangster on the second album, and then on 100 Miles Run, the EP, and all that stuff like that. And then, of course, they disbanded at some point. You know what I'm saying? And then Dre went on to start Death Row with Suge, whatever. Now, you have the native tongues. This is the point of a lot in this podcast, on this episode, that I want to talk about. The misconception of conscious hip hop. We're going to start with native tongues. I'm going to start with a Tribe Called Quest, my favorite rap group. Somebody said to me recently, Tribe is conscious. Well, slow down. Is Tribe Called Quest really a conscious rap group? Because yes, Q-Tip talked about Zulu Nation. He's part of Zulu Nation. Every now and then, he would drop little jewels for the community. But visually, you thought they was conscious because the first time you saw Tribe, you might have seen them on Left My Wallet in El Segundo. And they kind of like hippies. Like they look like De La Soul did on Me, Myself, and I video. You know what I'm saying? Then you saw the Bonita Bum video, the Afrocentric. So you equate Afrocentricity with consciousness. So you think Tribe is a conscious group because a lot throughout People Instinctive Travels on the debut, they seem kind of conscious to a degree, but that was kind of like a Q-Tip solo album. Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders and the Beats, Rhymes of Life and all that, that's Tribe to me. That's Q-Tip and Fife. You know what I'm saying? People Instinctive Travels is Q-Tip featuring Fife on a few songs. You know what I'm saying? When Low End Theory started, Fife became a star. And Fife is not a conscious MC. You know what I'm saying? So Fife was talking about chicks, strictly butter. You know what I'm saying? He was talking about punching your eye. He was talking about sports. He wasn't talking about like community activism or social awareness, like, you know what I'm saying, a Public Enemy or even Ice Cube. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't talking about, he was like, bust on your couch and now you got Siemens furniture. You know what I'm saying? Or bust a nut inside your eye to show you where it come from. I'm vexed. I got it up there, whatever. He didn't rap like nobody conscious. But the whole but Q-Tip vibe and talking about Zulu Nation made you think the Tribe was a conscious rap group. I mean, they were aware, social awareness and things like that, but they weren't really as conscious. When you go back and listen, well, Fife was not conscious. Fife was a battle MC. Basically, listen to Beats, Rhymes of Life, the first track on there. You know what I'm saying? So they weren't, he always talked about setting it off on somebody. That's just how Fife was. That was his energy. The yin and the yang, with Q-Tip. You know what I'm saying? Q-Tip talk about chicks a lot. But don't get me wrong, Q-Tip did talk about the government. He did talk about conscious things. But I don't think Tribe Called Quest is as socially conscious as you think. Now, the Jungle Brothers, I would say, were more conscious than Tribe Called Quest. De La Soul were deep. They were kind of conscious to a degree, but by the time Stakes is High came out, they were talking shit on Stakes is High all the way through it. They were dissing other MCs and groups without saying their names. They were dissing the industry. They was popping off. Stakes is High is not a conscious rap album. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you want to say 3 Feet High and Rising has that conscious element to it, De La Soul is Dead, maybe some of the joints in Balloon Mind State. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. But I think they're more of a personal group instead of a socially conscious group. But when you look at Tribe and De La, you think more conscious. Like when the Roots first came out, they seemed conscious. But listen to Black Thought Malik B when you get through by LDF Half-Life. Were they really that conscious? But you thought there were some poetry shop dudes. But no, listen to the rhymes. Roots was on some battle rap type thing. You know what I'm saying? So these are certain groups that you feel like were conscious groups that in essence, they really weren't. You know what I'm saying? When I think of conscious groups, that's the misconception. When I think of consciousness in rap, like that's their goal on every album, on singles and on big songs, I think of the Brand Nubians when they first came out. The debut by the Brand Nubians all for, and God would, no, not in God would trust. That's like that's not that one. All for One. They had joints like Slow Down. You know what I'm saying? They had the joint like Sunshine. And that goes into that 5% type thing. Because at some point, the 5% jewels, the 5% beliefs came into hip hop, whether it was Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, Brand Nubians, Grand Pooba, Lord Jamal, Sadat X, Derek X on the flex, something like that. You know what I'm saying? So you heard that on Brand Nubians. You heard Consciousness with the Poor Righteous Teachers and Wise Intelligent. Was very focused on consciousness. The MC, Paris was on the government and more radical. You know what I'm saying? You had like the X Clan who were more Afrocentric. You know what I'm saying? They was really about the red, the black, the green. You know what I'm saying? It was really about Africa. They reminded you of, teachings from Malcolm X or Marcus Garvey. You know what I'm saying? So it was pro-black. So I guess another thing would be, it's consciousness and pro-black all the same. You know what I'm saying? Because the consciousness will go up under the umbrella of, or the tree of Grandmaster Flash Miller the message, but would the pro-black do it? You know what I'm saying? Is that, are they in the same family? I would say yeah, but that could be a good debate for another day. You know what I'm saying? But the S Clan would definitely aware about the black community. You know what I'm saying? So, not to say Tribe and De La, the roots some of these guys weren't, but I just don't think that was their focus, like some people think. Now, you had Queen Latifah under with native tongues, cool with native tongues. She had, ladies first, consciousness with women. You know what I'm saying? She had, a lot of, later in her career, UNITY and stuff like that. So Queen Latifah was kind of conscious. You know what I'm saying? MC Lyte to a degree was conscious. You know what I'm saying? So you had consciousness in the hip hop with those groups. But like I said, the Poor Righteous Teachers, the X Clans, the Public Enemy, NWA First Joint. You can even say to the Ice Cube, you can even say Ice-T to a degree. He talked about the reality of the hood, which can be conscious as well. You don't look at him as a conscious rapper, but Ice-T talked about, okay, this is the lifestyle you pick. This is what happens to you. These are the conditions, and this is the reason why you're doing what you're doing. So you could kind of look at Ice-T like that as well. Again, the misconception is that he's not, because visually you see him, he's like a pimp back then, a drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? But he was actually spitting jewels. Same way you look at Tribe looking Afrocentric, but Phife was talking about sex, battling them C's, and sports and stuff like that. He never talked about no conscious joints. You know what I'm saying? He just kind of balanced out sometimes the joints, the jewels that Q-Tip would rap about. You know what I'm saying? So I think those are several things that to look at. You know what I'm saying? So now we fast forward some to the 90s, some other misconceptions. You might think that Dead Prez was like not conscious, but they was very conscious. They had a gangster element, aggression to them. You know what I'm saying? But that is bigger than hip hop. Was talking more about the industry and stuff like that. But if you listen to Let's Get Free, their debut album, which was produced by Lord Jamal, Brand Nubians, makes sense, right? I believe he discovered Dead Prez. Anyway, Dead Prez went hard on that. They talked about food, eating healthy. They talked about proper rest. They talked about taking care of yourself, having your own guns for protection and stuff. But they talked about systematic racism. They talked about independency and black businesses and things of that nature. They were a conscious rap group. You know what I'm saying? Dead Prez. Now, if we look at someone like Black Star was very conscious. If you listen to the Black Star album, the first album, that joint all the way through, they really hit on everything in the message. They hit on a lot of Boogie Down production. They hit a lot on Public Enemy. They hit on a lot of anything that was conscious before them. Most definitely, Talib Kweli definitely hit on that. Most definitely did it again on Black on Both Sides. I mean, a brilliant album. Talib Kweli on Train of Thought did it again. Please, the song For Women, the last track, hidden track on Train of Thought is absolutely phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? So those are, I think that was their aim when Black Star came out, their aim was consciousness. When Dead Prez came out, their aim was consciousness. When KRS-One did By All Means Necessary, it was consciousness. You know what I'm saying? Public Enemy, consciousness. NWA first starting, conscious. When LL Cool J wasn't considered a conscious rapper. Rakim with the 5%. You know what I'm saying? He dropped a lot of jewels about the ghetto and about conditions, and didn't even really curse. You know, he's the exact opposite of what you would think like Cool G Rap was, straight gangster. You know what I'm saying? I was listening to 456 yesterday and Executioner Style, and I played it on Twitter, and I'm like, yeah, he was murdering everybody. You know, that's what G Rap did. But you know, Rakim dropped consciousness, and so did Big Daddy Kane. You know, a lot of people looked at Kane as, of course, sex symbol, dancing. You know, chicks liked him, but Big Daddy Kane was a conscious rapper to a degree. You know, he talked about the 5%. He talked about Black and Proud. You know what I'm saying? Black and Beautiful and all of that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that was in Big Daddy Kane raps. You know what I'm saying? Of course, in Rakim. Not so much in like a Slick Rick or people like that, because everyone wasn't like socially like conscious like that in their songs. It didn't have to be. You know what I'm saying? So then let's look at some more 2000s, for example. Another misconception is, let's look at, I'm in North Carolina. Let's talk about Little Brother for a minute. Fonte and Big Pooh, Ninth One, Little Brother, when they first came out. They was from the tree of native tongues, right? Everybody looked at Little Brother as the little brothers to Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, even the Black Sheep, you know, stuff like that. Even a little brother of Mos Def and Talib Kweli, Black Star. Because Ninth used the samples, his production kind of felt native tonguish, Tribe Called Quest type beats and stuff like that. People assume Little Brother was a socially conscious like rap group. Well, Fonte talked about chicks and street shit. Big Pooh talked about sports and chicks and rhyming and stuff. That's what they were just rhyming over soul samples. They weren't necessarily a conscious rap group, but because they did have songs like personal songs, like on the listen they had Far From You, I think, or something like that. You know, so they had, you know, then they had the joints on the minstrel show talking about their fathers and stuff like that. So but that was personal. They talk about their personal lives on certain songs. You know what I'm saying? Issues with their brother, maybe Pooh, Fonte, or Pooh talking about his dad in the song, you know, stuff like that or whatever. So because there was a personable rap group on certain songs, the misconception was that they were a conscious rap group. They weren't. Go listen to Fonte and Pooh lyrics. They're not conscious rappers. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they wasn't aware, they didn't have no awareness and none of that stuff, but they weren't conscious rappers. You know what I'm saying? But that's visually you thought that, and because of the name of Little Brother, you thought that. You thought De La Soul was more conscious, but listen to their lyrics. You know what I'm saying? They're not really that conscious, especially on those Stakes Is High and on Grind Day. You know, they weren't really, you know, but that's the misconception again. And we think about hip hop, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, what else I got up here, man? Like, when I think of a conscious rapper in this era, I think of Kendrick Lamar. You know, because on Section 80, when he had that cushion Corinthians, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's one of the best put together songs I've heard. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's a personal turmoil song, but when he did the Reagan era, he talked about, again, when Kendrick did the song Ronald Reagan era on Section 80, that's a direct descendant of Grandmaster Flash Melly Mel, By All Means Necessary, It Takes a Nation to Million, Straight Outta Compton. Kendrick kept that vibe with certain songs on Section 80. He did that perfectly on the Ronald Reagan era song. Funny enough, you know, I used to write poetry. I wrote a song called The Reagan Era years before that came out, but I'm just saying it was funny when I saw him name his song that I actually have a poem called The Reagan Era. You know what I'm saying? The Crack Baby Blues, the Ronald Reagan era. You know what I'm saying? And of course, that was my reason was because, of course, the Contra, Oliver North thing in the 80s, you know, you can look that up. You know what I'm saying? We were selling arms, man. I mean, the government is the government. What happened, you know, the drugs didn't just magically appear, you know, in the ghetto, but I digress. You know what I'm saying? But Kendrick hit it on that. Then his social awareness also showed on Good Kid, Mad City. You know what I'm saying? Which is a brilliant album. But he brought it all home on To Pimp a Butterfly. A lot of people call To Pimp a Butterfly this generation's Takes a Nation a Million. That's high praise. Again, a lot of people call To Pimp a Butterfly this generation's It Takes a Nation a Million. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if we had to pick an album from this generation that's kind of remnant with that kind of social awareness on it, maybe that's the one. You know what I'm saying? Because the theme on it throughout is a lot of consciousness. You know, a lot of the people that we thought was conscious didn't have a theme all the way through like that. Now, of course, Dead Prez did, Black Star did, and a few others did, but a lot of people that you thought they didn't. You know, how much a dollar costs. You know what I'm saying? Complexion. Man, I mean, there's some stuff on To Pimp a Butterfly. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? Look at the video. Feel the vibe of that. You know, like, so I think Kendrick, I don't think a lot of people look at him as a conscious rapper. The misconception. He is a conscious rapper. Kendrick is 100% conscious. He 100% substance. You know what I'm saying? That's what he is. Now, we can look at other MCs who tinker on it, like a Nas, because Nas, of course, has a lot of songs about the government, has a lot of songs about, I mean, he did the Untitled album, the Nigga album, and he touched on, that's a conscious album. Now, I really wish, because I think Stickman from Dead Prez produced some stuff on and worked with Nas on the Nigga mixtape. But I really wish the Dead Prez would have produced the entire Untitled album. You know what I'm saying? Because I think Nas was right there on the cusp of having it just right. You know what I'm saying? But it kind of missed the mark a little bit to me. But Nas was totally conscious on the Untitled album. He had remnants of consciousness on every album, though. He was always socially aware, but he's a kid from Queensbridge where he still had the dope talking, the hood talking, mixed in the gangster consciousness, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nas kind of reminds me, for me, like kind of a combination of Ice Cube, Scarface with the Slick Rick storytelling. But you know, Scarface is kind of, I call him the Grim Reaper of hip hop because he's conscious from a more personal standpoint. I don't know if people look at Scarface as a conscious MC. They probably look at him as a gangster MC, but Scarface is very thought provoking, and I would call him a conscious MC. But a lot of people might not call Scarface a conscious MC. Nas is one of the ones that tinker. Now, there are MCs who have conscious songs, but they aren't conscious MCs. Benny Siegel got conscious songs. He's not a conscious MC. He's a gangster MC probably, but he has some conscious songs. Jay-Z has jewels in some of his rhymes. He said, do you listen to music and skim through it? He talk about hard times in the ghetto and stuff like that, but he's still more of, you know, flossing to a degree, but he does have some depth and some meat in his rhymes too. Those are some examples of people who, and so you look at someone like, because there's different categories for me. Luxury rap is a Rick Ross. That doesn't mean Rick Ross don't have a song called like Tears of Joy with CeeLo. He has that, but Rick Ross would be like one of the kings of luxury rap. Lil Wayne got some conscious songs on, you know, conscious joints on Carter 3. He talking about some things on there, but he wouldn't be considered a conscious rapper. The point of this part of the show is there are MCs who has conscious songs, but then they're not necessarily conscious rappers. You know what I'm saying? A lot of great MC, I mean, even Wu-Tang Clan dropped Science. You know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang talk about a lot of social conditions throughout a lot of their albums, solo and group albums. But you don't look at them as conscious rappers. Their appearance don't look conscious, but they do have some consciousness. Now, some of their affiliates, a lot of Killer Priest music was conscious. You know what I'm saying? Even though he looked gangster, a lot of his joints was conscious. Now, Common, for example, is another one like Nas. He tinkers. And I talked about this on Twitter before. A lot of people think, oh man, Common is just this poetry soft MC. No, you're not really following Common. Common raps about Chicago, gangs, the hood, the people, whatever. he does also rap about social conditions if you listen to his music, like Water for Chocolate, Song for Asada, Ghetto Heaven, whatever. On beat, It's Your World, which is one of the greatest endings to an album I've ever heard. So yeah, Common is a conscious MC, you know what I'm saying? But he also tinkers like Nas because he on some street stuff too, on the low. Yeah, listen, he battles too. He always challenging them C's to come get some, you know what I'm saying? But the appearance of Common is that, but he's more than just conscious, you know what I'm saying? Jerry the Damage will be considered kind of conscious doing his time. You know what I'm saying? So but like I said, the misconception for me is when you think of Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Little Brother, you know what I'm saying? Some of these groups, the Roots, you think Black Thought is conscious because he does hit a lot of socially charged conversations in his rhymes. But Black Thought talk about packing that heat and everything because a lot of people don't understand Black Thought had a hard life growing up. Black Thought, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong, he lost both his parents to gun violence. You know what I'm saying? So Black Thought is not this soft MC. Listen to, he has a song on one of his solo albums talking about teaching his son how to hold a chopper. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it's only like a 2-minute song, but it's like how to hold a chopper. You know what I'm saying? And you need to check that out. So the misconception is the Roots and Black Thought is some soft, band, but listen to the depth of Black Thought's rhymes. You know what I'm saying? To me, he's not. He can rap conscious, but he's really not conscious. He's more on that tinker that line too, like a Nas and a Common. You know what I'm saying? So that's just some of the things I was thinking about because a lot of people assume visually how someone will look, make them conscious or not conscious. Like I said earlier, look at Ice-T as a conscious MC, but listen to Ice-T music. It's not just player and pimp. You know what I'm saying? Ice-T is giving jewels throughout his joints. You know what I'm saying? Of course, like I said earlier, you got your Poor Righteous Teachers, you got your X-Clans, you know what I'm saying? You got some of them who definitely has their mind focused on that. And by the mid-90s, a lot of that was gone. Not by 1998, you had the Black Star and Dead Prez and all them coming back, bringing back the early 90s, late 80s consciousness. Mid-90s, you didn't see that too much. I mean, you did see, like I said, Jerry the Damager, you know what I'm saying? But you didn't see but so much. You had a little point where Mafia and Dope Boy rap, and I had an episode about Dope Boy rap and hip hop and Mafia influence of hip hop. That was that mid 90s, 94 to like 97. Then we got to a little flossing for about a year, and you got back to some rawness, you know what I'm saying? And then we get into the 2000s, you know what I'm saying? Kanye West, definitely with the college dropout, late registration, graduation, he tinkered, you know what I'm saying? Because Kanye, to a degree, had a lot of consciousness in his rhymes at first, you know what I'm saying? But he also had a lot of flossing and the dreams of the good life, you know what I'm saying? He talked about on graduation, then he got that. But he always tinkered some with his subject matter, you know what I'm saying? And, again, J. Cole touched on certain things, so there are some newer MCs now who, well, matter of fact, I should ask, you know what I'm saying, somebody please in the comment section, who are some of the groups or individual MCs you would think in this new generation, 2022, that would be kind of considered conscious. Maybe some underground cats who are not very popular who you would consider conscious. Now, I thought at some point Jay Electronica was going to blow up. I think that he had a lot of depth in his rhymes. I thought he could have really been on the forefront of bringing that really back along with Kendrick and a few other people. But, he just hasn't put out enough music, you know what I'm saying, for me to put him there. But I thought he had of course, talent and was going in that direction, and it just kind of fizzled out, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, what you guys think, man? Episode 27, just wanted to share a few thoughts in regard to consciousness in hip-hop. Starting with the message, of course, Grandmaster Flash, Melly Mel, and real quick, not only just that song, but White Lines, man, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's been some great conscious songs in hip-hop that we've discussed today on episode 27. You got the message. You got White Lines. You got the Black Star album. You got Self-Destruction. You know what I'm saying? You got Illegal Business by KRS-One, BDP. You know what I'm saying? Black Cop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You got F the Police for a reason. You know what I'm saying? You have Chuck D and Public Enemy who really dedicated their career to awareness. You know what I'm saying? I just talked about Brother J and the X Clan on Twitter not too long ago. You know what I'm saying? Who else, man? I know I'm missing some because there's quite a few people who have messages in their rhymes. And I always said that there's nothing more important than having a good message. Yeah, I love my Mobb Deep, and I love gangster rap sometimes too. I love the Locks and whoever, you know what I'm saying? But I do enjoy when a group like an Outkast come with some socially conscious joints throughout their career on certain songs. You know what I'm saying? And Outkast is a perfect example of that. Teetering can do both because they are conscious, but Big Boy talk about that gat too. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, just a couple of thoughts, man. It's been a while, man. I want to check back in with everyone, man. If you like the content, please subscribe, man. Follow me on Twitter, Tony the Dome. You know what I'm saying? Hey, one love, good people. Peace.